So in yesterday's class, I had asked a question regarding the difference between sputum and this thing, saliva that you get. Uh, did you find out? How do you differentiate between sputum that you are supposed to collect for a sample and nasopharyngeal discharge? So that is the question. What is the difference between sputum and nasopharyngeal discharge? Okay. See, the difference mainly will come at the time of collection. ठीक है, आप कब collect कर रहे हैं, that will make a big difference. Generally, sputum is collected early in the morning. At the end of productive cough, what comes out at the end of productive cough will be sputum. That is coming directly from your respiratory tract all the way from your trachea, and it is being produced outside. Nasopharyngeal discharge is mucus that it's, yeah, very thin, very non-viscid kind of liquid that comes out of your nose, and sometimes it will also be present in your nasopharyngeal cavity and nasopharyngeal space. So it's a big difference where you are collecting either one of them. Now generally you have to make sure that you are collecting early in the morning, okay, rather than collecting any other time. Generally subah subah collect karte hain, because what happens is bacteria has enough time to get loaded in that sputum overnight, and when you collect the sample early in the morning, it will be easier to detect the type of bacteria that is growing in the patient's body from that sputum. All right. So big difference is the viscosity and the location. Nasopharyngeal discharge, or the thin mucus that you see, will be present in your nose and your nasopharyngeal cavity. Sputum is something that is present in your lungs, okay, or in your respiratory cavity. Anyway, now coming to analysis of gastric and duodenal content. So we did tell analysis of sputum yesterday. We'll start off with analysis of gastric and duodenal contents. So much like the previous ones, when you are collecting gastric content, see, before, let's suppose we start with gastric content. First, you have to define what are the normal constituents of gastric content. Inside gastric juice, you will see obviously hydrochloric acid will be present, pepsinogen is present, chief cells banate pepsinogen. You will see intrinsic factor responsible for vitamin B, this thing B12 ka absorption. Mucus will be present to a certain degree, little amount, but it will be present. Gastrin will be present, the chemical gastrin. You will see somatostatin being secreted by D cells. You will see chymosin या उसको renin भी बोलते. It is not the same renin as being secreted by your kidneys. This is RENNIN or chymosin. Ever heard of this renin or chymosin? Only a special type of population has this. This chymosin or renin is generally seen in the stomach of young animals. Okay, it will not even be present in humans. It will be present in young animals, and it is a milk clotting protein. Okay, we'll have a different milk clotting protein, but in animals there will be renin or chymosin. So those are some of the molecules that you'll see normally in gastric juice. What is abnormal is blood, या फिर large quantities of mucus or bile, या फिर food food remnant, especially several hours after eating. Let us suppose the person has not eaten anything in 6 hours, meaning that suppose you are testing the person's gastric content at 6 o'clock in the evening, 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and they have had their lunch in between 12 to 1. So after 6 hours, there should not be significant amount of food remnants, almost nil. तो अगर फूड रेमनेंट्स मिल रहे हैं तो आपको दैट इज अ प्रॉब्लम. If you are finding bacteria, lactobacillus or pyogenic bacteria or yeast cells, generally they'll be found in patients who have achlorhydria, in whom HCl production is abnormal or it is absent essentially. Seeing tissue fragments or large number of epithelial cells, seeing parasites, seeing organic acids like lactic acid, all of these indicate some abnormality in the patient's body, and that is, those are all the abnormal constituents of gastric content. Normally they should not be present in the gastric juice, and only in certain specific condition will all of these blood to organic acids will be seen in the patient's gastric juice. Okay. Now whenever you perform a routine gastric juice exam, you will check for a few things. First is physical exam. Physical examination. Now physical examination में आप amount check कर रहे हैं, how much amount of acid is present or how much amount of gastric juice is present. Generally if it is increased, it will indicate that there might be pyloric stenosis, the pyloric sphincter is not opening completely, or it might be associated with the gastric ulcer or cancer. Color check करते हैं. Generally your acid fasting stomach में acid will be pale grain color, it will be translucent, ठीक है, and it will have a pungent odor. If it is red or maybe generally bleeding or peptic ulcer bleeding में या gastric ulcer bleeding में, वो condition में red रहता gastric juice, normally it should be pale grain color. You will check for odor, smell. Generally that odor should be rancid, slightly rancid, sour odor रहना. If you are smelling fecal odor, then it might be an intestinal obstruction, or if you are smelling ammoniacal odor, ammonia like odor, it will indicate that the patient is having uremia. ठीक है. 1 second. Right. Other than that, you will check for the character of that gastric juice. Meaning, what you will do is you'll collect a little bit of gastric juice in the test tube and you leave it be for a little while. After leaving it, what will happen is they will separate in different layers. If you take a test tube, put a little bit of gastric juice in it, and if you leave it for a while, you will see that the top layer is made up of mucus, a middle layer will be opalescent, and bottom layer should have a bread like residue. That is normal. Anything other than this will be considered abnormal. ठीक है, नीचे bread like residue, बीच में opalescent liquid, ऊपर mucus. All right. You'll check for the pH of the acid content. You will check for mucus content. It should have a little amount of mucus, but if there is excessive mucus, it will indicate some inflammatory condition, or it might be due to pyloric obstruction. Whatever mucus is being produced, that is being accumulated inside your stomach. You will check for particulate matter. That those are all physical examinations. Then you will do chemical exam. Chemical exam mein you are checking for blood, you are checking for the free acid levels, you are checking for total acid levels. You'll check for total acid and free acid will tell you whether or not the patient is having achlorhydria, or whether if they're having any infections, ठीक है, या gastric carcinoma है patient को. All of that can be told by the amount of acid in the patient's stomach. अगर blood मिल रहा बोले तो there is generally some ruptured esophageal varices or carcinoma हो सकता, या there is trauma to the tube. Any of those can cause blood to appear in gastric juice. Presence of bile, ठीक है. Bile generally कब होता, small quantity of bile will be regurgitated from duodenum due to nausea. When the patient has nausea for a long period of time, jaundice हो रहा या jaundice से पहले भी, if there is a lot of bilirubin present in their blood, it can cause nausea. That nausea might lead to regurgitation, ठीक है, and the regurgitation will be so strong that the contents of your duodenum might go into your gastric cavity. So normally, into your duodenum the common hepatic duct opens, and from that common hepatic duct pancreatic juices and bile comes down. So what happens is when there is regurgitation, that bile can get refluxed up. So if you're finding bile inside the patient's gastric cavity, it is a result of regurgitation, okay. uh, Sometimes even when you are putting a tube inside the patient's mouth, that time also regurgitate कर सकते, तो you have to keep that in mind. उसके अलावा you'll check for food residue. As I told you, normally food residue should not be present. If there is food residue for a long period of time after the person has eaten, it will generally indicate the patient has pyloric obstruction because of whatever reason, but they are having a pyloric obstruction. So those are the two main tests that you would do for gastric contents. You'll check for the physical contents of your gastric juice and chemical contents. Then duodenal exam पे pretty much same रहता. Duodenal contents जब check कर रहा है, you will check for physical characters, chemical characters. You will also check for microscopic exam, meaning you will check for any epithelial cells, pus cells, या bacteria. Then we come to semen analysis. So in semen, you will find seminal fluid as well as spermatozoa. Now, from examining semen, you will be able to investigate whether the patient has infertility. Second, if the patient has undergone vasectomy, was that successful or not? ठीक है. Or you can check for medical legal cases as well. In case there is rape or something like that, आप वो scenario में भी check कर सकते हैं. Now, generally, one of the tests that you do in semen analysis is sperm count. You will do sperm count, motility, morphology. These three are generally checked. So first of all, sperm count. So sperm count is done very similar to how RBC count is done, how WBC count is done. आप क्या करते हैं, WBC pipette लेते हैं. I'll show you how a WBC pipette looks. Hmm. हाँ जी, ये है देखो WBC पिपेट. ठीक है, इस पे मार्किंग्स थोड़ा अलग रहते हैं RBC पिपेट से. You take this WBC pipette, you draw liquefied semen in that WBC pipette up to 0.5 mark. ठीक है, you take semen only up to this mark, यहाँ तक लेते हैं आप. And after the rest of the part you will add diluting fluid up to 11 mark. ये जो 11 mark है, 1 mark भी बोलते हैं उसको, वो mark तक आप diluting fluid add करते. तो आप dilute कर रहे हैं essentially, almost 10 times dilute करते उसको. Anyway, this diluting fluid will have sodium bicarbonate, formalin, and distilled water in different concentrations. You take 100 ml of distilled water, you add 5 grams of sodium bicarbonate and 1 ml of formalin, जो liquid formalin. वो आपका diluting liquid बन जाता. तो after this 0.5 to 1 यहाँ पर पूरा आप diluting fluid add करते. Once you have mixed that, you let it sit for 2 minutes. आप क्या करते, you will charge the Newbar's chamber, and Newbar chamber के अंदर, Newbar chamber ऐसा रहता, देखो ऐसा रहता. WBC काउंटिंग के लिए यूज करते हैं जनरली, बट आप सब स्पर्म काउंटिंग के लिए भी यूज कर सकते हैं. Now, charging a Newbar chamber means that you are loading the sample onto the Newbar chamber. आप जो सैंपल लिए थे स्पर्म का एंड डाइल्यूटिंग फ्लूइड का, वो मिक्स करके इसमें लोड करते, इस पे डालते ही, and you let it settle for 2 minutes. After letting it settle, you will examine this under the microscope and you will count the number of spermatozoa in two large peripheral squares. So you will count the number of sperm either in this or this, या तो 1 2 या 3 4 या 1 3 या 2 4, जैसा भी. दो पेरिफेरल स्क्वायर्स जो है उसमें आप काउंट करते, नॉट ऑल द मिडिल स्क्वायर्स. कोने के जो स्क्वायर्स है उसमें से कोई भी दो स्क्वायर्स में आप काउंट करेंगे. Okay. After counting the number of spermatozoa, you will multiply that number by 1 lakh. Essentially, you are taking into account the total number of spermatozoa per ml depending on dilution. वो पूरा आप multiply कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, because you are diluting in the this thing WBC pipette, and later on you are putting it on the Newbar chamber and also counting only in two squares. वो पूरा आप count करके उसको 1 lakh से multiply करना पड़ता. On an average, in a sperm sample, sperm count value for normal individual should be more than 60 million per ml. So the amount of spermatozoa present in the person's semen sample should have more than 60 million sperms per ml of the semen. Abnormal values will be less than 20 or some more than 350. ठीक है, लेस देन 20 अगर रहा तो पेशेंट को ओलिगोस्पर्मिया रहता, बहुत कम अमाउंट ऑफ स्पर्म है. 350 के ऊपर रहा बहुत तो पॉलीजूस्पर्मिया बोलते, वे टू मच अमाउंट ऑफ स्पर्म काउंट. ठीक है, ईदर वन इज अबनॉर्मल, लेस देन 20 मिलियन पर ml और मोर देन 350 मिलियन पर ml. ठीक है, this is million per ml. That is the first thing, sperm count. Then you will also check for motility of sperms, whether they are mobile or not, whether they are motile or not, whether they are able to move. Now what you do is, आप liquefied swimming को एक glass slide पे डालते हैं, you take the sample, you put it without diluting it, you put that sample on a clean glass slide and you put a cover slip on it. You examine it under a microscope, ठीक है? uh, First under low power, then later on under high power. Normally 2 hours after ejaculation, almost 60% of spermatozoa should be vigorously motile for about 6 to 8 hours. Okay, 25 to 40% will be somewhat motile. 60% will be very vigorously motile. 25 to 40% will be somewhat motile. ये motility आपको कैसा पता चलती? जो spermatozoa का tail end रहता है, that will keep on moving very very vigorously. ठीक है, that indicates that it is motile and it will generally move around a little bit. If the motility is less than 50%, meaning less than 50% of the sample that you have taken is motile after 6 to 8 hours, generally आप क्या करते हैं, उसको stain करके फिर से check करते हैं. You use a eosin Y stain, nigrosin stain बोलते हैं उसको, उससे stain करके आप check करते हैं. ठीक है, तो check for any non-motile heads and non-motile sperms. Normal value is more than 60% motility after 6 to 8 hours, meaning after 6 to 8 hours of ejaculation 60% of sperm should be motile. Less than 50% is abnormal. ठीक है, this all of these will affect fertility. Sperm count कितना है, motility कैसी है, morphology of sperms कैसे है, all of that will have an effect on the fertility of that person. Then if you talk about morphology, आप abnormal morphology के लिए देख रहे हैं specifically, आप फिर से liquefied semen को एक glass slide पे डाल के उसके ऊपर cover slip देख के you'll stain it with a Romanowski stain या PAP H, PAP or H or E stain भी use कर सकते हैं आप. Anyway, after staining, you will observe at least 200 spermatozoa for any abnormality in morphology. Normally 80% of the spermatozoa are normal. ये 20% पे थोड़ा abnormality रहता है, but most of the time if it is a normal sample, a healthy individual, उनके अंदर 80% of sperms will be normal. Abnormal spermatozoa कैसे रहते हैं? They will have double head, or they will be, their head will be swollen, pointed head हो सकता, या double tail रह सकती, या rudimentary form में रह सकते. ठीक है, you might see presence of RBCs and WBCs. You will check for that. अगर present है तो वो abnormal है. ठीक है, so that will also tell you whether or not the person's spermatozoa are morphologically correct or not. Depending on the motility, depending on sperm count, and depending on morphology, there are a few inferences that you can make, a few conclusions that you can come to. First of all, aspermia. Aspermia is a condition where there is total absence of ejaculate altogether. Then azoospermia. Azoospermia में there is absence of spermatozoa. Keep in mind, यहाँ पर semen content seminal fluid है, but spermatozoa नहीं है. Okay, big difference. Sperm रहना, semen रहना और उसके अंदर sperm रहना बहुत दो अलग चीज़ा है. Okay, keep that in mind. Your semen is not only seminal fluid; it also has this thing. What do you call? It also has your spermatozoa. 1 second, I'm getting some sound. Is someone messaging? नहीं, को लगा आप लोगों को किसी को डाउट था, टिंग टिंग बोल के आवाज आ रही थी. ओके, देन एजोस्पर्मिया वो है. ओलिगोजूस्पर्मिया भी एक रहा था. ओलिगोजूस्पर्मिया, ओलिगो मींस फ्यू, ओलिगोजूस्पर्मिया भी बोलते हैं उसको, ओलिगोस्पर्मिया भी बोलते हैं उसको. इट मींस दैट डिक्रीज्ड वॉल्यूम ऑफ स्पर्म. ठीक है, यू कैन हैव oligozoospemia, decreased number of sperm, decreased volume of sperm is oligospermia. Polyzoospermia is more than 350 million spermatozoa per ml. Necrospermia is another condition. Necrospermia is a condition in which the person's spermatozoa will be dead. Okay, so they are dying inside the patient's scrotum, and by the time it is ejaculated, they are dead essentially. Okay, that will also severely affect the person's infertility levels. Then finally, we have a few specimen culture, specimen collection methods, specifically of CSF. CSF analysis के लिए one of the main ways through which you can collect sample is lumbar puncture. Now I've already explained what lumbar puncture is. आप कैसा करते हैं? You will make the patient lie down on the side. आप उनको relax कर देते हैं. Put a little bit of local anesthetic. Local anesthetic डालने के बाद आप introduce a needle डाल के आप लंबार पंक्चर करते, लाइक L4 L5 के स्पेस के बीच में इलिया क्रेस्ट फाइंड करके, वो जो इलिया क्रेस्ट का लाइन रहती वहां पर आप L4 L5 को लोकेट करके उसके बीच में आप you puncture into the meninge. Essentially you'll be able to feel a pop जो अपन देखे थे वीडियो of once you know that you are in the subarachnoid space. At that time you collect a sample, a couple of ml of this thing, couple of ml of CSF, and that is your this thing, lumbar puncture test. Make sure, one important thing when you are performing lumbar puncture, after you perform the lumbar puncture, make sure that the patient is not moving around for at least half an hour to 1 hour. They're not supposed to get up and start walking. ठीक है, मेक श्योर, क्योंकि उन लोगों को न्यूरोनल डैमेज हो सकता है. इट विल टेक सम टाइम फॉर योर स्पाइनल कॉर्ड टू adjust to that decreased amount of CSF and to adjust to the you're literally putting a needle into the spinal cord of the patient. ठीक है, almost very close to the spinal cord. तो आप जब निकाल लेंगे needle को after you have performed lumbar puncture, make sure that you leave someone with them and make sure that the puncture site is you're putting some pressure on the puncture site, and you're making sure that the patient is not moving around for a little while after the lumbar puncture is done. Half an hour, 1 hour generally, you'll make sure they're not moving around. Okay. And for the ease of performing lumbar puncture, when you make the patient lie down on their side, ask them to assume a fetal position. I hope you know what is the fetal position. Fetal position mein essentially you put your knees towards your chest, okay, in order to expose your back completely, essentially to round your back. Okay, आप kyphos कर रहे back को, if you understand what kyphos is. So think of it this way: the person's back is completely exposed like this. Please excuse the diagram. Let's suppose this is the legs and these are the patient's hand. तो no, completely exposed कर दे रहे. They are ideally holding on to their legs. ठीक है, so that you can perform a lumbar puncture here. Somewhere there you will locate and you will perform a lumbar puncture. ठीक है. In earlier days cisternal puncture भी करते थे, अलग अलग type of cisternal puncture करते थे, lateral cervical puncture या ventricular cannula puncture. जो cisterns रहते हैं आपके brain में वहां पर puncture करते थे. See, this is a cisternal puncture. जो cisternal magna है उसके अंदर पंक्चर करके CSF विड्रॉ करते थे, बट दैट इज अ मच मोर डेंजरस प्रोसीजर बिकॉज यू आर ऑपरेटिंग वेरी क्लोज टू द मेडुला. इफ यू निक एनीथिंग, द पेशेंट्स वाइटल्स विल गेट सिवियरली अफेक्टेड. रेस्पिरेटरी सेंटर, वैसोमोटर सेंटर वहीं पर रहता, तो अगर आप थोड़ा भी गलती करें तो बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो जाता. दैट इज वाई जनरली इट हैज बीन स्टॉप्ड. ठीक है, नाउअडेज ओनली लंबार पंक्चर इज यूज्ड. So there is that. So that completes our examination of body fluids and body cavities. I hope you understood this. See, it's only a bunch of diagnostic tests. It's not a very difficult topic as such. I would say a lot of memorization, yes, but there's not much to understand. It's just a number of tests. ये problem है तो ये test करते, ये problem है तो ये test करते, ये check करते, उतना ही है. The next chapter will be urine and feces. आप जो assignment लिखे थे, the same chapter. Okay, so I'll just briefly go over that chapter because you've already written an assignment over it. We need not go into all the details. And if you complete that urine and feces, your pathology syllabus will be over. We can take 2 classes of pharmacology after that. And उसका भी portion जल्दी खत्म कर सकते हैं. तो